He calls me shaitan. What would you like to tell him?
Shaitan.
Brother,
He's a shaitan.
he's shaitan.
Yes.
ठीक है भाई.
So he says, I spread hatred. How do I spread hatred? By coming and trying to engage in a conversation with a fellow human being. What does he do? He says, I spread hatred while acknowledging this fellow calling me a shaitan and repeating the same claim. When people are beginning to expose their nasty evil cult, what is the best response they have? Distract. Distract, throw in junk, red herrings, which are demonstrably not true, and run away like cowards. I know of Muslim men who I have related to, who are married multiple times, who are having coffee with me, and they were already lusting after another lady. I say, hey, look, I thought you were married. He said, yes, I am, but I can have more. So you're a Muslim, sir. Please come here, sir. Help me understand why you would follow a jihadist terror religion. Why? Please come. If say,
I've seen the brothers destroy you.
which brother destroyed me?
All of these brothers here destroyed
Which one?
you.
Name one.
Brother, every brother here.
Name one.
They have
Name one.
destroyed you. I've
Name
seen
one.
I've seen on YouTube. You have no argument that stands any
Name
water.
one brother who
You're just-
destroyed me.
He's a hater. He's a hater.
He's
Yeah,
a
can't-
shaitan.
just
Who
the
did I
way-
hate?
He's shaitan.
You are a hater, brother.
He's a
You
shaitan.
make no logic.
He calls me
He's shaitan.
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 What would you like to tell him?
Shaitan.
Brother,
He's a shaitan.
he's shaitan.
Yes.
ठीक है भाई.
So
He's
he
a
says,
shaitan.
I spread hatred.
Yeah,
How do I spread hatred?
make
By
yourself-
coming and trying to engage in a conversation with a fellow human being. What does he do? He says, I spread hatred while acknowledging this fellow calling me a shaitan and repeating the same claim. My dear friends, why did you call me a shaitan?
You're shaitan.
But you agreed.
I agree.
Why?
Because you are. I've seen your videos. You don't make any sense.
When you call me a shaitan,
You're standing
any
there.
sensible person would see that as a sign of hatred. So why do you hate me?
You're just spreading hate for Islam.
You call me a shaitan and I am spreading hate. When last did you have a medical checkup?
That's irrelevant to
It's very relevant. When someone comes to Speaker's Corner and calls someone else a shaitan, is that person spreading hatred or the one who looks at him thinking, oh, that looks like a fellow human being and I can engage in a conversation, and he accuses me of hatred? Can you imagine? Engage. My dear friends, to engage is what we do at Speaker's Corner. If you have shown up at Speaker's Corner and if you are surprised that people are dismantling Islam, you need to revisit your decisions.
Fastest growing religion. What does
At this rate, clearly. How many children have you got? He looks like a 16-year-old child. He might already have 5. Who knows? At the rate of what Islam does, which is nothing but sexual slavery, and they use the name marriage and divorce, unbelievable. My dear friends, if there is a Muslim here who is able to step forward and just demonstrate to me how in Islam you have a marriage, I will be delighted. Because from what I see in the Quran, I see animal-like breeding where mafia thugs destroy the lives of women, even Muslim women, for the sake of sex in the way of sexual slavery. That's all I see. Muta, multiple things, not just muta, multiple things. So that is what I see in the Quran. So if you are a Muslim who is able to engage, please, I'll give you specific details. You can come and debunk me. My friend here speaks about muta. I'll bring out a long list for you. My dear friends, let me bring out a long list for you. Please come and engage. How does Islam treat even Islamic women? Forget about non-Islamic women, even Islamic women.
in your Bible? It says, if a man rapes a woman, you give 50 shekels to the girl that got raped,
No, it
to the
doesn't.
father, and you have to marry her.
No, it doesn't.
50 shekels.
No, it doesn't.
50 shekels.
But don't be
Don't talk
distracted.
about marriage in Islam.
Don't be distracted. This is what mafia dawah fellows would do at Speaker's Corner. When people are beginning to expose They are nasty, evil cult. What is the best response they have? Distract. Distract, throw in junk, red herrings, which are demonstrably not true, and run away like cowards. What does Islam do to women? Islam does not like the feminine gender. At birth, it dislikes girls. Says Surah 52, Ayah 39. One example, but in multiple other places, the same point is recorded. Girl children, Nana, never like. Women are sex objects, nothing more. Their will, when it comes to sexual relationships, does not matter. The man doesn't have to ask the lady or one of the many ladies he might have hiding in one hotel, some other hotel, hiding here, hiding there. He doesn't have to ask. As long as the lady said yes once, that's it. The lady's life, don't touch me, is gone. Yeah, keep it down, keep away. Thank you. Sex objects, Surah 2, Ayah 223. According to Islam, the men don't have to keep commitment to the women. Can you imagine? They go around saying they have such a thing called marriage, yet the Quran says the man to his sex object women, the four at a time, and many others hiding wherever, they do not have to keep commitments. Why do Muslims not get married before courts of law in our nation? Because they won't commit, because they won't keep commitments. They do their silly little nikah in the Sharia courts and run away, abusing women in the thousands and millions across our nation. Who says the men don't have to keep commitment? Surah 66, Ayat 1. Even Muhammad wasn't required to keep commitment to his ladies. The men can replace the women as if the women were like tires in a car or batteries in your laptop. Can you imagine? What would you normally replace? If you think about things that you would normally replace in your life, things that are commercial, like an object. That's it. Nothing more. Object. What are objectified, you replace. But according to Islam, the Islamic men can replace their women. Why? Because the Islamic women are nothing but sex objects who enter into a sex slavery contract. Says who? Replacing women. Surah 66, Ayat 5. Men, when they have 3 or 4 people, women, in different places, they can go around finding one more secretly. Can you imagine this nonsense? I know of Muslim men who I have related to, who were married multiple times, who were having coffee with me, and they were already lusting after another lady. I say, hey, look, I thought you were married. He said, yes, I am, but I can have more. This is the level of their lust, Islamic men. So why do, my dear friends, so far you might have heard of the pedo sex slavery scandal across our nation in Rotherham, Rochdale and so on. Let me tell you, there is another scandal which hasn't been unearthed so far to any degree. You know what that is? The abuse of Islamic women, even as recorded by various councils, borough councils, consistently across our nation. I have information from multiple people who work in different councils who consistently acknowledge that there is a pattern which has to be unearthed, that there is abuse of Muslim women all over the place in statistically large numbers in Muslim, what they call families, which clearly aren't families. These are sex brothels. Women can be kept in house arrest. Surah 33, Ayah 33. Now if you're wondering, well, how can this be true? Let me tell you, my dear friends, even those who belong to the royal family of Dubai, ladies that belong to the royal families in multiple Arabian Islamic quote-unquote westernized nations have to flee their nations to go to a Western nation for safety. Why? They are royalty, but even their royalty doesn't accord them protection when it comes to men who are seen as their sex masters. So Surah 33, Ayah 33. Men can beat women. Surah 4, Ayah 34. On what basis can Islamic men beat Islamic women? Not for any noble purpose of maybe the lady attempting to become a jihadi or whatever. No, not for that. That is fine. If the lady wants to become a jihadi, the man will be like, that's it, honey. I'll also come along. We'll both be jihadis. But if the man becomes mentally ill and suspects the lady, then merely because the mentally ill man suspects the lady, he can begin beating up the lady. Can you imagine the level of abhorrence even in the UK? Why do the Shamshi and other mafia ringleaders run away from knowledgeable people at Speaker's Corner, even though they are mafia ringleaders who don't get paid properly, and they send their minions like him, like this gentleman here, to disturb? Why? Because they know Islam is so terrible. I can add to this the fact of the victim. So his best rebuttal to the points I am raising is that I have a very bad accent. Can you imagine? If the very bad accent that I have is the best rebuttal to the points I am bringing out in relation to Islam, you can see how terrible Islam is. Now I'll move on. There is pedophilia. Surah 65, Ayat 4. Pedophilia. Across the Islamic world, there is no age limit in relation to the girls that Islamic men take as their sex slaves. No age limit. Particularly if the girls are non-Islamic. And this is why across our nation we have a girl-child pedophilic problem at the hands of Pakistani Muslim men. Why? Because it is permissible and perfectly normal in Islam.
Why is it particularly Pakistani men though?
Well, that's a good question. As a matter of fact, what's his name? Paul Williams made this point. There was a video quite recently. Oh, it's only Pakistani problem. Okay, I'll tell you.
Not only, but
He says, why is it? That's a good question. Steve is asking a good question. Why? How can Steve ask good questions? Because he's not a Muslim.
or a Christian.
If he had been a Christian, he would have known already the answer. But because he doesn't know the answer, I can't. But that's a joke. Steve, lovely. Why is it among Pakistani men? One of the very latest nations which artificially formed along the lines of religion is Pakistan. Pakistan is very unique and one of a few nations which has these qualifications. Pakistan, the equivalent perhaps is Bangladesh, but guess what? Until recently, Bangladesh on paper was not yet Islamic. On paper, Bangladesh was a secular nation. Most people don't realize this. Bangladesh even today has a 50-50 population. Those who are opposed to Islam, this is why they hate this Sheikh Hasina, I forget the exact name, but the one they have dethroned, the long-time president. And so Bangladesh is a different beast. Pakistan, what used to be West Pakistan, which is today's our Pakistan, is very unique, relatively unique, in the sense that it is an artificial nation formed for Islam. In other words, even better than Saudi Arabia, here you're supposed to have more adherence to Islam. Because even in Saudi Arabia, because you're born to a family, you're stuck there. But the families which actually genuinely became Islamic perhaps were 500 years before today, if that makes sense. But Pakistan, the people who genuinely took up Islam wholeheartedly come from about 70 years ago. Just one generation. You see what the point I'm making? And people moved to be in that Islamic state. And so that is where in Pakistan you're bound to find Islam among Pakistan would be one of the few nations across the world where you're bound to find Islam being practiced more faithfully than anywhere else in the world.
Okay.
So that's the reason it's Pakistan. And Paul Williams, I saw a recent video of Paul Williams, the Englishman who has become a Muslim,
The only gay in the Muslim village.
who hasn't been killed yet. Well, God bless him. You know, I want him to live long, but he has gaslighted, and he said it's an ethnic thing. Well, clearly he hasn't learned history properly, and he has been shifting the blame without doing his research properly. Ethnically, there is not much difference between Pakistanis and Indians, today's Indians, because both come from the same landmass. Even though we have plenty of ethnicities across the Indian subcontinent, culturally, there's broad, similarity in some areas at least. But the Muslims in India are very different. You'd find a lower proportion of jihad activity amongst the Muslims of India, whereas the Muslims of Pakistan, the Shias kill Sunnis kill. They have been killing thousands and millions, and even leaders quite successfully, consistently.
Shias in Pakistan.
There are Shia minorities, Shias, and their mosques and so on get bombed reasonably regularly. And so, culturally, if the problem is culture, then Indian Muslims should have a similar problem. But the same Paul Williams acknowledges Indian Muslims don't demonstrate that problem here, even here. And so the point clearly is this is entirely down to Islam, not the cultural background, because the same culture, India versus Pakistan, Indian Muslims don't exhibit. They are statistically less than their population involved in the pedo sex slavery scandal, but Pakistanis are more. And so that's the answer to that point. But so we are dealing with problems after problems because of Islam, and we need to wake up to the reality of what Islam is doing. And these clowns clearly aren't going to help us. They show up here. I don't know why they show up here. They clearly won't engage. And so all our leaders should take note of the marvelous assimilation of the Muslims even at Speaker's Corner. Marvelous assimilation. They are so assimilated that everywhere across the country, including at Speaker's Corner, they are more than happy for Islam to be debated, and they are willing to provide a case, as you could see. And we have videos after videos. My dear friends, according to Islam, Muslims are not supposed to integrate. And they demonstrate that even at Speaker's Corner. They are supposed to lie, run away, do everything necessary to protect Islam.